The mornings had become routine, but not in the peaceful, serene way Rayan had once imagined when he moved into Evergreen Ridge, the Tacadvanced suburban neighborhood just outside Neo-Phoenix. Instead, they were filled with frustration, tightening fists, and the now expected metallic hum of Karen's hovercar sliding into position right across his driveway. Again, Rayan sipped his synthetic espresso, the bitter taste doing little to mask his irritation. Through the polarized glass of his home's smart window, he watched her vehicle slowly descend with exaggerated smugness. She always did it while making eye contact with his doorbell cam. Karen, the self-appointed queen of the homeowners association, had an uncanny ability to twist regulations to suit her whims. Rules she enforced on others didn't seem to apply to her. While the HOA's bylaws clearly stated that obstructing driveways was prohibited, she always had an excuse. Just a moment, she would say, or I'm waiting for a delivery. Even if that moment stretched into hours, Rayan had filed complaints. Over a dozen, all digitally time-stamped and backed up with video. Each time, the HOA's response was robotic and dismissive. We are investigating. But the investigations never yielded anything more than empty apologies. Worse, Karen took every complaint as a personal attack. She had since doubled down on her efforts, sometimes even parking sideways just to prove a point. Her passive-aggressive notes, left in neon ink on his mailbox, always ended with her signature line, "Warmest regards, HOA President Karen M. Jennings." He had tolerated it long enough. Rayan wasn't just a frustrated neighbor. He was a systems architect for one of the leading AI firms in the region. A man who once helped design self-regulating city drones could surely find a more creative solution to this suburban power trip. He started by analyzing her car's autopilot habits. Her vehicle, a sleek silver Zentra Hover, Ninch relied heavily on pattern-based parking routines. It always chose the most dominant, obstructive spot when it sensed free street space. Even overridden its default courteous positioning to make sure it blocked him every single time. He tried reasoning. That was his first mistake. One Saturday, he caught her just as she was stepping out of her car, its oversized visor shielding half her face, her dog barking like a malfunctioning siren from the back seat. "Karen, this has to stop," he said, hands raised in a diplomatic gesture. She barely turned to face him. "You should be grateful you have a driveway to block," she said without a hint of sarcasm. "Some people don't even own hover cars. It doesn't give you the right to park on mine. You're being aggressive now. I'll need to report this to the HOA. She waved a device, pretending to record him. He sighed. Was useless. Later that night, after a long walk through the neon-lit streets of the district, Rayan stood in his garage, lit only by the cool glow of his workshop's AI assistant. Blueprints hovered in midair as his mind raced through possibilities. He wasn't thinking vandalism, he was thinking innovation. And there was only one person who might have the kind of technology that could help him solve the problem in a way that didn't involve confrontation, escalation, or boring court appearances. He opened a dusty directory in his neuropad and scrolled to a name he hadn't contacted in years. Dr. Zara Elamine, last he heard. She'd been working in applied quantum displacement, an obscure and extremely confidential field. He typed out a message, stared at it for a moment, and hit send. If anyone could help him make a hover car vanish without a trace, it was her. And by morning, Karen would park in his driveway one final time. The response came faster than Rayan expected. Within minutes of sending his message, a blinking alert appeared on his neuropad. Encrypted incoming call, Zara Elamine.
Oh.
He accepted it, and a moment later the holographic projection of his old friend flickered to life in his living room. She hadn't changed much, sharp eyes behind data-laced lenses, her hair tied in a messy braid streaked with neon blue, and that same slightly impatient expression that always made Rayan feel like he was wasting her time. "You're either desperate or crazy," Zara said without preamble. "Which one is it?" "Little of both," Rayan replied. "I need something removed." Her eyebrow arched. Define removed. Non-destructively? Quietly? Permanently? Like she laughed, though it was more mechanical than amused. Dodging conflict the smart way, huh? What is it? Some kind of surveillance drone? A rogue bot? Rain hesitated. A hovercar. Zara blinked. A hovercar? You called me about a car? Not just any car, he explained quickly. It's a tool of psychological warfare. My neighbor Karen parks it in front of my driveway every single day. HOA. Won't help. I've tried every digital complaint avenue. She's too smart for the law and too petty for reason. Ala-da-da-da-da-da-da. Zara sighed and rubbed her temples. I work on interdimensional displacement theory, not neighborhood vendettas. No. But this is more than that. You remember how we used to joke about solving real-world problems with impossible tech? This is one of those moments. I don't need to destroy the Karai, just want it gone. No evidence, no damage, just moved. There was a long pause. Expression shifted, curious now. And you trust me with something like that? I've seen your work. You once made a vending machine disappear from the university cafeteria. That was an accident. Still impressive. Another pause. Then Zara sighed. I've been testing something. It's unstable, but it could work. It's called the DimShift MK2. It's designed to create a localized wormhole that briefly opens. A pocket dimension of void space. Anything small enough caught in the field is displaced into the pocket. Theoretically safe. Not retrievable yet, but safe. That's perfect. And unstable. If it glitches, it could tear a hole in space the size of your garage. Rayan shrugged. Karen's car is usually parked right outside. Zara groaned. You always were too calm about breaking physics. A few days later, under the cover of night, Zara arrived at his house in a darkened, cloaked vehicle. The neighborhood lights dimmed as her craft disengaged its stealth field, revealing a compact, sleek pod no larger than a food truck. Inside, wires glowed like veins, and a crystalline core pulsed in the center of a floating cube. Zara handed Rayan a slim tablet-sized remote. This is the DimShift controller. You aim, lock onto an object, and tap the initiate field button. Once the cube stabilizes its geometry, the wormhole opens for exactly 3.2 seconds. That's all the time you get. Where does the object go? Nowhere and everywhere. It exists in a suspended state in a higher dimension. Technically. Still in our world, but completely untouchable. Can it ever come back? Zara hesitated. Theoretically, yes. But practically, probably not. It's not with current tech. That's part of why it's not approved for public use. Rayan stared at the sleek remote, its surface glowing faint blue. It looked too simple for what it could do, and if someone sees it, they'll see a flicker of light and hear a unless they're a physicist, they'll just assume it was a power surge or drone interference. Rayan nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the moment. He had the device, he had the target, and for the first time in weeks, he felt in control. Tomorrow, Karen would park her hovercar in front of his driveway again, and this time, he'd be ready. The morning air was thick with silence, the kind that only occurred before something irreversible was about to happen. Rayan stood behind his smart window, coffee in hand, watching as Karen's hovercar descended in its usual slow, arrogant fashion. Her vehicle glided to a smug halt directly across his driveway, its silver shell reflecting. The morning sun like a challenge. He didn't move. Not yet. The DimShift remote rested on the kitchen counter beside him, dormant but pulsing softly. As though anticipating the moment just as much as he was, Karen stepped out in her usual HOA War regalia visor sunglasses, aggressively neon tracksuit, and her ever-yapping mini dog tucked under one arm. She paused, made eye contact with the doorbell cam again, and smiled. Not a friendly smile, a conqueror's smirk. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she enjoyed every second of it. Ara waited for her to disappear inside her house before moving. He walked out calmly, holding the remote in his hand like it was a regular household gadget. To any passerby, he could have been watering plants or checking the air quality. He glanced around. The street was quiet, no drones, no joggers. Patrol bots. He raised the device and pointed it at the car. The targeting reticle shimmered across its surface, syncing with the hover core embedded in the vehicle's undercarriage. Once locked, the remote let out a soft chime. Target acquired. Dim shift ready. He hesitated for a second. It felt like crossing a moral line, even if just a technological one. But then he remembered the months of aggravation. The passive-aggressive notes. The endless complaints dismissed by the HOA simply because Karen was the president. This wasn't. Revenge was justice. He pressed the button at first. Nothing happened. Then the air around the hover car shimmered like heat waves rising from pavement. A low hum vibrated through the driveway, barely audible but definitely unnatural. The edges of the car began to blur, and a strange ripple spread across its surface, like reality was folding in on it. In a blink, a vortex of light opened beneath the vehicle. With a soft pop, the hover car collapsed inward, vanishing completely into a flash of blue and silver particles. Gone. No explosion, no damage, not even a scorch mark on the concrete. Just the sound of birds chirping and the faint whir of Rand's air conditioner humming back to life. He stood there for a moment, stunned by how clean it had been, he expected. Something more dramatic, more chaotic, but it was surgical, silent, precise. The perfect vanishing act. He quickly walked back inside, stored the dim shift device in a shielded lead case Zara had provided, and returned to his morning coffee as if nothing had happened. 2 hours later, Karen's shrill voice shattered the peace. "Where is my car?" Rayan casually sipped his coffee and opened the door. Karen was pacing in her driveway like a glitching android, clutching her dog and screaming into her wrist communicator. She saw him and marched over. "Did you see anything? Did your cameras catch anything?" "Someone stole my hover car." Rayan kept his expression neutral. "Nope, just woke up a little while ago." "Maybe it was towed? You were blocking my driveway?" Again, she sneered. "You think this is funny? That car has location shielding? It can't be tracked unless authorized by me." "Maybe it glitched," he offered with a shrug. "They've had issues with the last software update, right?" Karen stormed back toward her house, barking orders into her, comes and calling. For a full scan of the block, surveillance drones were summoned, scanning for anomalies, but there was nothing to find. The energy signature from the dim shift was too brief and too exotic for standard sensors. Rain watched as the neighborhood slowly descended into confusion. No one could explain what had happened. The HOA's internal system was baffled. Karen's rage grew with every passing minute. For the first time in weeks, his driveway was clear, peaceful. He took another sip of his espresso and smiled. The following morning, Evergreen Ridge felt like it was under military lockdown. Surveillance. Drones buzzed through the neighborhood skies in synchronized formations, scanning every inch of pavement, rooftop, and garage with high-frequency pulses. Patrol bots combed through driveways and side yards, speaking in polite monotones but issuing aggressive alerts to anyone who got too close. The entire community group chat had erupted into speculation, theories, and a few thinly veiled accusations. Karen, however, was far from subtle. By 9 a.m., she had summoned an emergency HOA assembly in the community center. Stereo glass and metal dome in the middle of the block. Rahan received the notice on his neural feed like everyone else along. With an encouraged to attend priority flag which, coming from Karen, felt more like a threat than a suggestion. Inside the dome, every chair was filled. Holograms of absent residents floated next to their empty seats, tuning in virtually. The community center's AI adjusted the lighting to Karen's preferences. Warm, intimidating gold with pinpoint beams on the central podium. She stood behind it in full authority mode, arms crossed, face stern, and eyes scanning the room like a hawk. "As you're all aware," she began, "my vehicle has been unlawfully removed from my property in act of blatant theft and high-tech sabotage. This is not just about me. This is an attack on the integrity of our neighborhood." Rion sat near the back, arms folded, feigning mild concern. He'd reviewed the footage on his external storage node that morning, every angle carefully scrubbed. His heat signature masked, and the wormhole event cloaked with the shielding Zara had programmed into the device. The dim shift left behind no conventional data trail, Karen continued. I have reviewed all personal surveillance feeds, submitted voluntarily by neighbors. Nothing useful except this. She tapped her wrist pad and a projection hovered over the room. It showed a flicker no more than half a second of energy distortion near her vehicle. This occurred at 7:41 a.m., the same time my car vanished. I forwarded this to a private tech forensics firm. Their initial report suggests a high-level displacement event, possibly military grade. A quiet murmur spread through the room. Military grade? That was no longer petty theft that bordered on terrorism? Rayhan kept his face carefully neutral. Karen's eyes scanned the room like she was looking for the first one to flinch. We will be performing rolling data audits on smart home sensors, comms traffic, and personal drone logs. Anyone who resists will be formally reported to city security. It caused a ripple of discomfort. The residents of Evergreen Ridge prided themselves on privacy. The HOA was already overreaching, but this felt like martial law disguised as concern. After the meeting, Karen cornered Ryan outside. You didn't submit your drone logs, she said sharply. I turned off my perimeter drones that day. Maintenance. Cycle, he replied casually. How convenient. He met her stare. You know, you parked in front of my driveway that morning again. Maybe the car finally got tired of your attitude and drove itself off a cliff? Funny, she snapped. You think this is a joke? I'm going to find out who did this. You have no idea who you're messing with. She turned on her heel and stormed off. Ryan watched her go, heart steady. But later that night, he sat in his darkened workshop, fingers tapping anxiously on the edge of his workbench. He pulled up the diagnostic report Zara had sent him. It showed something that made his stomach tighten. A minor instability in the wormhole field had occurred in Echo Ripple. It wasn't enough to damage anything nearby, but it had registered on external environmental sensors. The device hadn't been as invisible as they thought. He stared at the sleek dim-shift controller locked in its case. Karen was closing in, and if she got access to enough specialized tech, she might start connecting the dots. He'd made her car disappear, but had he left a mark behind? If she kept pushing, the next person to disappear might not be a car. It might have to be Karen. Ryan paced the floor of his garage, the shadows from his overhead workshop lights flickering like ghosts with each anxious step. Oh, dim-shift MK? 2 sat sealed inside its lead-lined containment case, quiet but ominous. He hadn't touched it since the incident. But the report Zara sent earlier kept replaying in his mind. An echo ripple, a faint anomaly in the fabric of local space-time. It had only lasted milliseconds, but that was enough. Enough for forensic drones to detect. Enough to give Karen a trail. And Karen was relentless. She had already upgraded her investigation. Not satisfied with local tech forensics, she'd brought in a private contractor Agonks, a black-budget surveillance firm known for sniffing out rogue tech. Their presence was already felt in the neighborhood. Sleek, spider-like sensor drones had started crawling along rooftops, and environmental resonance scanners were being mounted to light posts. Ryan's stomach tightened. These weren't HOA toys. These were military-grade instruments. If they picked up even the slightest trace of the energy signature, it wouldn't take long before someone questioned how a systems architect like Rayan had access to it. That night, he messaged Zara again. She's getting close. Zara's hologram flickered into view minutes later. She looked more tired than last time, her eyes rimmed with digital burn. You said you used the wormhole for one displacement, she said. I didn't design the dim shift for repeated stealth use. It's not designed to cover its tracks. I didn't use it again, he replied. But the residue, the ripplets lingering. Zara leaned in, concerned. Then you have 2 options. Come clean and risk a tech violation, or disappear her too. Rayan froze. He joked about it in his mind, yes. The idea had crept in as Karen escalated, as her tactics grew more invasive and her behavior more hostile. But hearing it said out loud made it real. He wasn't a killer, not even close. But the dim shift didn't kill. It relocated. Still, the permanence of that relocation, that was a kind of violence. I don't want to send someone into a void, he whispered. Zara's face was unreadable. Then get out in front of it. Frame a glitch. Build a backstory. Convince them her car triggered a quantum fault due to illegal modifications. You're smart, Rayon. Outthink her. But even as she spoke, he knew it was too late for smoke and mirrors. Karen had already filed a formal report with the city's Department of Tech Violations. If they approved a warrant, he'd have inspectors crawling through his house with spectrum analyzers and truth probes. The next day, Rayon opened his front door to find Karen standing there. She wasn't smiling anymore. She looked tired, worn down, but burning with cold determination. "I thought I'd come speak face to face," she said. He said nothing. "I know you had something to do with it. You're too quiet, too clean. Timeline doesn't add up otherwise." Rayon met her gaze. "You think I made your car vanish with what?" "Magic." She took a step closer. "No. With tech, no civilian should have access to. I don't know where you got it, but I'm going to find out." Then, for the first time, her mask slipped just enough to reveal something new. Not just anger or pride, but fear. Dropped. "You don't understand what that car contained?" Rayon blinked. "What?" But Karen turned without answering, walking off toward her house. Something inside her warning chilled him more than her threats ever had. That night, he sat staring at the dim shift controller again, its pulsing light reflecting in his tired eyes. He was running out of time. If Karen had secrets hidden in that car, something worth chasing, worth protecting, it explained a lot. But it also meant he hadn't just erased a nuisance. He might have triggered a chain reaction. One way or another, someone else was going to disappear. The question now was whether it would be Karen or him.